Hello guys and welcome for another New World video. Today it will be something different and maybe for most of you unexpected video, because I will share with you my spear and rapier build. Yes, you heard it right, spear and rapier. For those of you who didn't know, I made a poll not long ago and the question was, what should I main as a secondary role? It was possible to vote from my YouTube channel as well as my Discord community channel, and the most votes went for the frontline decks. As I love the rapier, I decided to scrap a build with a spear and see how it goes. Well, to be honest, the results were actually amazing. I had some expectations for the build, but the outcome just blew my mind. I surely can tell that this is probably one of the strongest builds out there and definitely can serve in any scenario from a small scale PvP up to even war. So what does the build look like and how does it work? Let's not lose more time and go straight into the weapons and their skill trees. For the spear side, I used a bit different skill spec than the usual frontline spear. On the place of the sweep, I prefer to have skewer, as it will not only weaken my enemies, but will provide me with extra damage and critical chance due to the other spear passives. The other two abilities that I take are the cyclone and the perforate. The cyclone is a must-have to keep and sustain good health and stamina, as well as the perforate can give you a lot of rend on targets and of course extra weaken. Overall, the skill tree of the spear doesn't change that much from the common frontline decks, but still have some small differences. If you still value the sweep more than the skewer, you can always go for it. For the rapier side, same as the spear, I don't play the usual setup for a frontline decks. On the place of the evade, I prefer to take flurry. The main reason for that is the extra grit and invulnerability provided for half a second, as well as the leeching from the perk. In my opinion, this ability can be insanely valuable as long as you time the use of it correctly. It will also provide a quick burst for the next ability in my kit, and that's the Flourish and Finish. With its insane burst potential, sometimes you can end up taking 50% of the HP on a light target if all the stars align. Last but not least, I go with the Fletch for extra movement and chase potential. Now when we know the skill trees for both weapons, let's take a quick look on the weapons that I use and their gems. For spear, I go with fortifying perforate, play crits and penetrating backstab. The reason for the perforate instead of any other damage perk is simply because it gives me another 45% of fortify if I use the weapon perk on the weapon instead of any armor. For the rapier, I use finisher with last perk keenly empowered. You can also use something else, but I prefer the keenly empowered perk due to the fact that most of the times it will increase the burst potential of my bleed from the flurry into the flourish and finish. For gems in my weapons, I use rune glass opal of any element type and pure non-rune glass emerald on the rapier for higher burst to targets under 50% HP. For the spear, another option can be jasper, so you would benefit from the 3 stacks of empower, but the rune glass jasper is still bugged and gives only 1 stack of empower. Please have that in mind if you consider using this gem. For armor, it is important to mention that I go with tumbler boots as an artifact. The reason for that is that I use a full set of shirking heals, as the stamina on this build is quite easy to regenerate. With that in mind, I have the following pieces: a hat piece in medium with shirking heals, shirking fortification and leeching cyclone, a chest piece in heavy with shirking heals, shirking fortification and slash conditioning, light gloves with shirking heals, shirking fortification and enfeebling skewer, heavy pants with shirking heals, shirking fortification and leeching flurry, and of course, as mentioned, the tumbler boots artifact with last perk shirking heals. With all that on the set, I have 5 shirking heal perks, 4 shirking fortification perks, 3 weapon perks, 1 slash conditioning, 1 physical aversion and 1 refreshing. Of course the refreshing is not really needed, but since it's locked on the artifact, I cannot do much on it. For jewelry, there are few variations, but they all depend on the skill level of the player and of course the game mode that you are playing. For amulet, I usually go with Ankh with last perk Trust Protection. You can definitely change that to Stamina Recovery or Shirking in Power depending on your playstyle. You can go even with another amulet if you don't have a healer, but keep in mind that Shirking heals still get quite a lot of bonus from the Ankh even after all the nerfs. For ring, I play with Red Hot Slag, which has Hearty, Bloodletting, and for third perk I use Trust Damage. As both of your weapons are using Trust as damage type and they both scale well with the bleed, I believe that this is the best ring that you can have on this build. Last but not least, the earring that I use is crafted and it's super easy to make it from different recipes in the Gypsum Clean. The 3 perks on it are Regenerating, Refreshing Toast and Fortifying Toast. As you can see, I heavily rely on Fortify on this build as you can get so much value from it. The main goal is to maintain as much as possible your Perforate, Shirking Fortification and Fortifying Toast. In that way you will never feel as a medium user but more likely as a heavy one due to the fact that your armor values will be extremely high. Another important thing to share is of course the attributes that I'm using for the build. I prefer to go with 25 strength mainly because I use a lot of light attacks and abilities. 200 constitution is definitely needed for the bonus armor and of course the rest goes into the dexterity. Another way of distributing your points can be also to place 25 points into intelligence so you can get bonus damage for all the bleeding targets and of course bonus damage for all your critical hits. Unfortunately at the time when I was building this I had quite a lot of magnify so I couldn't reach this split. Since I almost forgot to mention my rune, for Heartrune I use the Grasping Vines which can apply additional rend and weaken to all nearby targets. The downside of this rune is that you lose a little bit of stamina regeneration, but as we said with the Cyclone it's super easy to get that back. Since I'm not an expert with melee weapons, please take this build with a grain of salt and have a few things in mind. Like mentioned, the build is extremely powerful but also requires a bit of skill and mechanics to make it work. If you don't agree with something, please let me know in the comments below or in my Discord community channel. If you decide to give it a try, let me know how does it feel. Do you feel stronger with it? As always guys, I want to thank you for watching and supporting the channel. If you like such content, please make sure to subscribe. If you want to catch me live stream, you can do it by following my channel on Kick, for which you can find the link on the screen or in the description below. Thank you once again for watching and I will see you on the next one.